Hi, my name is Patricia King, and I have a word for 2010 regarding the keeping of covenants. Our God is a covenant maker, but He's a covenant keeper, and covenants are made to give a sense of security and protection. That's why when we say that we're in covenant with God, it's the most amazing thing, because we know that God keeps a covenant. But if you make a covenant with a person that you know is going to break it, what good is that covenant? All your protection is lost. It's all gone. You're best not to make a covenant at all. The Lord showed me that there's going to be a danger in 2010 for more and more covenants to be broken. And we must stop this through our prayers and through our commitment to be covenant keepers. Sometimes covenants can be made in business agreements or even agreements between churches. But the main one I want to talk about today is the marriage covenant. Now, I know that this is a sensitive subject because many of you who are watching this have been hurt within marriage, and you've been devastated, and divorce is never pleasant. It's always difficult, and you've been maybe hurt through it, and through no fault of your own, you've had to go through so much. So I don't want to bring hurt to you at all, and I want you comforted if you've had to go through something like this. But at the same time, we sometimes are so afraid of hurting someone that we don't say what needs to be said. And church, we must get back to the seriousness of marriage covenant. When we get married, it's not just an option to say, oh, well, I love you for a moment and I'll say I do, but it doesn't mean anything. We need to understand what that covenant before God and before man is. That's why we get married before God. That's why we make our vows before people, before what's called witnesses that even sign as a witness of that covenant. It is a legal agreement that you are locked into through vows, through covenant. And it needs to be taken seriously. The foundation of any nation will begin to crumble when covenants crumble. When we do not keep our covenant, curses come on the land instead of blessings. Right now, the divorce rate in the church is as great as outside the church. And this ought not to be, because we are a people who, number one, should know how to love. Love needs to be our greatest aim. And love isn't activated just when everything goes well. Love is to fight even when things go wrong. Love is to never give up. Love is to fight and persevere in faith for breakthrough and for sustained victory. And again, I want to say, I understand that when things get to be to a place where a couple needs to separate because there's danger in the life or the emotions or whatever, I can understand that, but it can't be taken lightly. And you can't just jump out of one relationship into the next one because the first one was uncomfortable for you. It can't be like, oh, well, my wife doesn't satisfy me, and she's not on board with me, and she's this or she's that. And vice versa. It can't be like a woman deciding, well, my husband doesn't give me as much attention as I'd like, and he's not bringing in enough money, and he's not serving God the way I want him to, so I think I'll leave him for this anointed man of God over here. This cannot be. We must fight for our marriages no matter how hard they are. We can make them like heaven on earth if we'll put focus and faith and passion into it. I know of a situation recently that I've been contending for because there was problems in the marriage and that there was fighting going on. And if there's fighting, just stop it. Just go before God and before each other and humble yourself and find a way for love to prevail. Fight the love fight, not against each other. Don't destroy each other. Fight the love fight. But when those things aren't properly looked after, over the years they build and build and build, and before long, you just want to give up and go with someone else. And that actually happened with someone I know. In fact, the Lord had told this man to marry a certain woman. He told him in a vision. And from what I understand, it was almost like an audible voice that he was told to marry a certain woman. And so he married that woman, and they were happily married. They had children. They had gotten married by making vows and a covenant with each other before God and before man in response to this word of the Lord that this man had had. And then over the years, the marriage got a little bit more uncomfortable, and the wife wasn't on board with the husband. And instead of taking time to look after things at home, he looked after his own calling instead and pursued that calling and got the praises of men and other women and started looking at other women and started, crossing boundaries on a number of occasions and started being unfaithful within his marriage. His wife still loved him. He decided, I want to get a divorce, and his wife said, no, I don't want one. He separated from his wife, who was involved with another woman, and ended up divorcing his wife, marrying this other woman that he had had an affair with, and then is trying to get into frontline ministry with an endorsement on that ministry saying, everything's fine, it's not a problem, I can be divorced and remarried and have this work, it's not a problem. And when I was praying into it, so grieved, the Spirit of God in me was so grieved over the situation that I cried actually for 4 months, almost every single day. I felt like Jeremiah, because the Lord said, a standard is being lowered. A standard is being lowered. Instead of being raised, a standard is being lowered. And this is the word of the Lord that He gave me. And it was a Rhema word out of the Message Bible in Malachi 2. And it says, and here's a second offense. You fill the place of worship with your whining and sniveling because you don't get what you want from God. Do you know why? Simple. Because God was there as a witness when you spoke your marriage vows to your young bride. And now you've broken those vows, broken the faith bond with your vowed companion, your covenant wife. God, not you, made marriage. His Spirit inhabits even the smallest details of marriage. And what does He want from marriage? Children of God, that's what. So guard the spirit of marriage within you. Don't cheat on your spouse. I hate divorce, says the God of Israel. God of the angel army says, I hate the violent dismembering of the one flesh of marriage. So watch yourselves. Don't let your guard down. Don't cheat. You make God tired with all your talk. How do we tire Him out, you ask? By saying, God loves sinners and sin alike. God loves all. And also by saying, judgment? God's too nice to judge. Wow. Well, that is the Rhema word that I received from the Lord when I was praying into this one situation where there'd been unfaithfulness, and he had made a vow with the wife of his youth, and then the children get hurt in it. The children are all messed up and having emotional problems and having to see counselors, and there's breakdown everywhere. And yet, this man wants to be out there preaching to the masses and the multitudes. And there's others in the body saying, well, that's fine, it's not a problem. Do you know what? It might not be a problem for you, but it's a problem for God. It is a problem for God. And He says so right here. We can't